with Committee of the Whole to order for Monday, June 27th. Our first item of business this morning would be delegations. We have no delegations. Item 3.1. And we have a letter from Connie Patterson. So could I have a motion to approve and accept the late item? Councillor Wilbur, second. Councillor Earl, thank you. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Voting. No, it isn't. All those in favor? Opposed? You have to vote. And it's carried. Thank you. And so item 3.1, we have a letter from Connie Patterson, President of the Exhibition Association. And Blair, do you want to speak to this first before we have council?
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning. So they have received and were successful in a grant application through Northern Development Initiative Trust. The trust noted that their contract or their lease agreement is due up in 2023. What they're looking for is a letter from the City of Dawson Creek letting them know we will be engaging in discussions on that lease when it'll be in 2023. We are not in those discussions today. I note that the letter states, but I think what we're looking for here from the city is if council is comfortable saying, yes, it's our intention to enter into new lease discussions with the Exhibition Association prior to the expiration of that. And let them know. There's no guarantee. I mean, I just don't see any reason we wouldn't further that. We may tweak it in some ways, but other than that, a letter to state that our intent is to enter those negotiations.
Simply the intention is that council, the new council will be engaging with the Exhibition Association
to further
in providing the discussions for a new lease agreement.
Yes.
Thank you. So Councillor Dober?
I can make that motion in
Thank
the way
you.
of what you said.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Wilbur. Any discussion? All those in, oh, sorry. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. New councillor business. Councillor Wilbur.
Thank you. So I had the honor of attending a few events in the community. So one was a community garden opening, and true to Mother Nature, it poured rain on us right as we were going to cut the ribbon. But it was fun, and we had cake, so that made it all better. So congratulations to them. That was a lot of hard work from different groups and entities, but I'm not sure how many raised beds they have, but 40 at least. But it's beautiful. It's gated, and I wish them well. I think it's going to be a great addition in the new location. As well, I attended the NLC convocation ceremony, so congratulations to all our community's graduates, but congratulations to NLC 2022. So that was nice to see. And I know there's lots of other events in the community. I know there's a fusion event at KPAC. The Filipinos community ended their month of celebration with buffet and a festival and did an outstanding job. So congratulations to them. So if anybody says there's not anything to go on doing in the community that you can do, there's tons. So I think Co-op also celebrated the gas station opening at Pioneer Village. So tons of stuff to do. Lots of recreation camps coming up this summer. So please check out the city site and get registered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilbur, and thank you for attending those events on behalf of council. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. One or two things. As Councillor Wilbur alluded to, the KPAC did host the Multicultural Fusion Festival at the Calvin Crook Performing Arts Center on Saturday. I've attended a few, and every year the organizers there make a concerted effort to reach out to various cultural groups, ethnic groups throughout the city. And it's wonderful. The food's always great and interesting, and it's wonderful to see whether you're talking about international students at NLC, our local Filipino community, or what have you. These people come into our community and they become a part of the community and they take part in events, and I think that's wonderful to see, and I just wanted to congratulate them on another well-run event. They didn't make as much use of the outside as they were hoping to because of how hot it was, but it was great. And I did also want to mention, because it appears the season is upon us, irrespective of what we might wish. So I'll take a moment to give a heads up to the citizens of Dawson Creek that it is my intention to put my name forward for re-election to the office of City Councillor in this October's coming municipal election. It's been a challenging 4 years, and despite the difficulties, I think we as a council have made some very important headway on some very important issues. And if they'll have me, I hope to be a part of this council for another 4 years. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. And thank you for attending the events as well. Any other new councillor business for anyone? So item 5 is the minutes, and we have the adoption of our minutes of our regular meeting of council for June 13th for adoption. Councillor Wilbur, second. Councillor Dober. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry. It's going to be a long day. No, it won't be. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Any business arising out of the minutes for anyone? Item 7 is correspondence. 7.1, we have a letter from Anna Barford, Canada Shipping Campaigner to Protecting BC Coasts. Councillor Parslow?
I move that we receive this for information.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Wilbur. All those in, sorry.
Just warming up.
All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Item 7.2, we have a letter from Shannon Stubbs, MP, Shadow Minister. Rural Broadband Strategy. Councillor Dober.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question around this one. I know we can't discuss, but when a letter like that comes in that, possibly is something the city should support, and it's directed to you, Your Worship, is there something that, are you looking for direction from council if we want to support this?
So that's a good point. And I honestly, sitting on the board of the Peace River Regional District, we have a rural broadband fiber working group that we're involved in, and certainly doing work at that level to support the development of access for rural British Columbia, Northeast BC. And so I think if we probably should seek to support that initiative that we're supporting the work ongoing at the regional district for that rural broadband in Northeast BC.
Well, that's what I kind of agreed to, reading this, but I don't know, they're not really asking for much. Is it something as simple as a letter from us saying that we're in support of this initiative?
And certainly we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we send a letter in support of this initiative.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Wilbur? And I've got speakers, Councillor Wilbur.
I also note that they're actually asking us to express the 3 most important issues that are impacting our economic development as a rural community. So are we going to together come up with 3 main topics? Broadband's one of them for sure.
And I absolutely think that healthcare, education,
Yep.
And access to, and so those are 3 really important initiatives that are impacted directly by that. So we can add that as if Darcy's okay with that,
Yeah.
in terms of those initiatives. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, I was going to mention what Councillor Wilbur suggested, or what she noted, and I was also going to make my own pitch for including the challenge with redeveloping brownfields into that, because for all of the push we get from the provincial and the federal governments at times to diversify our economy, it's very difficult to do that when you've got large sections of your downtown core which for all intents and purposes can't be developed or redeveloped. So I know we're going to pursue the matter with the provincial government and at this year's UBCF, but I think trying to get some people on our side at the federal level might be worthwhile as well.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
I did, just to add to Councillor Earl's point, I do believe that UBCM has been tasked, and it is something they're working on with provincial and federal levels through resolution, and I think you'll see that come back this year in the resolution book. So I think brownfields will be a topic of discussion moving forward. But I do agree that broadband, connectivity, healthcare, and education is 3 major points for us to make in a return letter.
Thank you. Further comments? Ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 7.3, we have an email from Jeremy Linklater, president of the Dawson Creek Dare to Dream Society, regarding a request for some support during the planned music festival on July 23rd and 24th. And so, Blair, I'm wondering if we can ask what the cost of this would be, and if we do approve this, it would come from a grant, I'm assuming, out of the city's grant budget for the support of this.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship, and I'll maybe defer to Aaron if I don't capture everything here. So there is a request, and they would like the city staff as well. I think we have had some discussions with them where the castles would be sufficient if we have 2 castles that we could let them use. The total cost of that would be about $800 if you were to rent them for the weekend and the time they need. I'm not inclined to have city staff have to engage in that. I think they can look after that themselves. So there would be a no cost, but if we were to rent them, the cost would be $800. This is a community event. Thus, there is a request here, will you put those castles in place at a donated value, is what it would be. Have I missed anything, Aaron, on that?
Through your worship. So, yeah, just in saying the cost is what, because we don't necessarily rent them out. What it is the cost of when we do our own programs. That's how much it costs per hour, is the 50. However, with the amount of asking for staff hours, that is quite high, with the $3,484 is what it would cost if our staff were to attend. So the 800 is quite reasonable, and they do fall under our, we're under their insurance, so they are covered, as well as they have our BC safety permits attached to those as well.
Okay, so the request then for us would be for council to consider is to allow the use of the bouncy castles for the event. They would install them themselves, and that would be an $800. Or is that only if we use our staff to install them, the $800? Aaron?
Through your worship. So what that is 800 is, it's basically what it is. It's like $50 an hour. If we were to use a castle, really all we will be doing is dropping it off. It takes 15 minutes to blow it up for them, and then we leave, and then we would pick them up after.
So there is no real request then financially for us to make under our grant program. We're just going to allow them, if council directs, to use the bouncy castles for the weekend without our staff. Blair?
Through your worship, there's an and or in this request. So we're suggesting that we go with the use of the bouncy castles with no staff for the 16 hours, including drop off and the cost at $800, versus supplying the staff to be there for the weekend.
Okay, good. Thank you. So Councillor Dober, I think was...
I'll make a motion that we drop off the bouncy castles with no staff for whatever time they need. And I don't think, from what I've heard, the $800 is that's just if we were to rent them out. So there's no cost to us besides the 15 minutes to drop it off. So I think we just donate that time.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl? Go ahead, Councillor Earl.
So just not to be finicky here, but just a request. So the way this is written suggests that $800 in-kind donation potentially would be counted towards or accounted for by coming out of our grant budget. But when we drop off, say, barricades for other nonprofit events, we don't assign an hourly rate. I'm not trying to muddy the water here. I'm just curious as to what, if there's no hard cost above and beyond foregone revenue, how, I just want to be consistent in how we account for these kind of community contributions.
So the $800 cost is what we would internally budget to something if we use the bouncy castle. So you're right, there is no cost out of pocket, so I'm not sure that we would need to account for the $800. Aaron, I think it would be fair to say we're not going to pull $800 out of the grant funding to do this.
Councillor Parslow?
Sure. Question about insurance. Is this insurance liability insurance and covers damage to anything that happened to the equipment?
Aaron? Sorry.
Through your worship. So really, if you wanted to look at the $800, that would count if something if it would get damaged. But they do put us on their liability for the 5 million, so we are fully covered under the city.
For the liability, but not for the damage to the equipment.
Yeah, if there was damage, we would have to cover that cost.
Right. Do we have any policy around loaning equipment to community groups? Because it seems to me that if we don't, maybe we should have, and we wouldn't necessarily have to deal with these requests. It would be governed by the policy.
So presently, most community groups come through council, as we've seen over the years, requesting that, whether it be barricades, whether it be such things. We've then addressed them here. We could look at a policy so it doesn't have to come before the board, but right now we don't have a formal one that I'm aware of that says what you're referring to, Councillor. So we can look at that in the future.
Thank you. Darcy, did you have another comment?
No.
Okay. Councillor Wilbur?
I just wanted to clarify that we actually would be dropping it off and picking it up, or staff would be. But I believe is not part of this letter that he's also requesting for 4 barricades and 6 barrel garbage cans to be dropped off and picked up, or did we deal with that earlier? Like, I think that's part of this request, not just the bouncy castle. There's actually, it's kind of all together.
So the barricades will
4 barricades.
be added to it?
Yes, they would be. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any further comments? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have a letter from William Beamish, Mayor of the Town of Gibsons, regarding hospice services funding. Councillor Parslow.
I move that we receive this for information.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Dober. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 7.5, we have a letter from Councillor Lori-Ann Rodenberg, President of the Union of BC Municipalities, regarding the North Central Local Government Association resolutions. Councillor Parslow.
Receive for information.
Second, Councillor Dober. Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. 7.6, we have an email from Richard Truman, Vice President of External Relations from Geoscience BC, regarding the seismic ground motion hazard work they had been working on in Fort St. John and Dawson Creek area. Councillor Parslow.
Receive for information.
Second, Councillor Wilbur. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 7.7, we have a letter from Jonathan Cote, Mayor of the City of New Westminster, regarding request for support for library funding UBCM resolution. Blair, can you just give us a little update on this in terms of how this may impact the funding that the City of Dawson Creek provide to our library?
Your Worship, this goes back to a number of years pre the government in today. There was adjustments that were made in the provincial funding to libraries. What I get from the letter from His Worship that they're sending out is they would like that funding reinstated or increased. So the impact, I have not been able to speak with Pam on this. If there is a direct impact on our library, certainly the funding does not flow through that I am aware of from ourselves through the city. So at first blush on this letter, it doesn't look like there would be an impact on ours, but I can get you that information. They're seeking for political support. Here's what they're
Thank
looking.
you. Councillor Dober.
I guess not knowing that part, but I think we would still, like, I'd like to make a motion that we support, what their letter to the government. It's not really clear exactly what they're asking, besides that they're asking for support of the resolution from the City of New Westminster, so.
Okay, so you're supporting that?
Yeah, I'm
Thank
in
you.
favor of supporting that.
Second, Councillor Earl. Discussion? Councillor Wilbur?
So are we sending them a letter saying we're supporting it, or are we just gonna support it on the floor at UBCM? It's just another resolution that's going in the book.
I think the support we would provide would be on the floor of the Union of BC Municipalities Convention.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Earl?
Yeah, I was looking for that clarification as well, and I did want to note, because I have had a couple conversations about this issue with various people, that it is essentially funding from the provincial government has been static, hasn't really kept up with inflation, and that puts libraries in a position where they either need to come back to us as another level of government or other stakeholders to make up that gap, or they need to provide less in the way of services. So it's not a direct hit to our budget in the sense that the money doesn't flow through us to them, but as we're familiar with, what the provincial government abdicates sometimes falls onto us as a city to provide. So it is in our interest, I think, to make the case for them to shoulder their part of the responsibility in this. So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. So are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 7.8, we have a letter from Dean Good, President of the Mile Zero Cruisers, regarding a request to add 3 vacant lots for the use of the Show and Shine on July 10th. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. I'll make a motion that we supply the Mile Zero Cruisers the 3 lots requested in their letter.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Earl? Discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Dober.
I just, one, I guess to the city or to Blair, is there any risk of, like, I know most of those lots, I believe, are somewhat cleaned up, but like, is there, I don't know, on the Wildcat lot, is that concrete still going around? Like, is there some potential risk hazards there to allowing people? I mean, they're not fenced off now, but.
I don't believe there's any risk. I think they have always worked well with the city, the Mile Zero Cruisers. The only thing we'd worry about is, I'm guessing they're going to either put some booths there, some vehicles or whatever, is that they've always treated the city respectfully. And if there was damage, I'm sure they would fix it, but I can't see any reason why we wouldn't do this.
Yeah, because I think they said they were going to put kids' play zones and porta potties.
Yeah,
up them,
it makes
so-
sense.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? Okay.
Thank you. Any further comments? Ready for the question? All in favor? I'll get opposed, and it's sorry. I need to do it again. I think I didn't. Did you get it? Good. Thank you. 7.9, we have a letter from Chelsea, Emergency Planning Manager at the city, regarding a request for support of a proposed project grant for the Harvest View multi-use trail. Perhaps could we have Chelsea speak to this, Blair, first before we have council?
Certainly, Your Worship. Chelsea has joined us. Good morning, Chelsea.
Good morning.
Good day. All right. So through your worship, I received notification that the UBCM had a strategic priorities grant that could fund a potential trail expansion for the city of Dawson Creek. So we have applied for a grant in the past for this that we're waiting on receiving confirmation of. Thanks, Terry. And but this was a great opportunity. So it's up to $6 million of funding, 100% funded if we are to receive or if we're to be successful for the grant. It would be a trail extension that would run all the way up 8th Street. So where 8th Street ends right now, I think it's about 89th?
90th.
90th?
Yeah.
Perfect. So it would extend from 8th Street up to the 210 or Imperial Access Road, go along the Imperial Access Road, and then down 17th Street to connect with our trail that's already there. And we're looking at having it be a multi-use trail, a year-round trail that has lighting, so it's safe, accessible connectivity of our two main arterial routes of being 8th Street and 17th Street. As you know, we have many recreational users that use the 210 road right now for running or cycling, and we'd love to be able to get them off of the road to a more safe area, but also have access to all the new families and new people living up in the northern half of our community. We don't have a large trail network in the northern component, so that's the reasoning behind it.
Awesome. Councillor Dober?
I'd like to make a motion that the City of Dawson Creek supports the grant application to the UBCM Strategic Priorities Fund for the city's Harvest View multi-use trail with an estimated project value of $6,286,405. Further, that the city provide a letter of support for the proposed activities and the willingness to have staff provide overall grant management.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Earl. Discussion? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. Given I seconded it, I'm obviously going to support it. But I did just want to make note with respect to, because I think this particular trail expansion has come before council with respect to some other grants before, and I saw some people note on the old interwebs that, I thought we were focusing on capital and on roads and what have you and whatnot. And certainly that has been a priority of this council over the last few years. Having said that, if you look at when we came in 2018, this $250,000 capital contribution would have represented a pretty significant chunk of our capital budget at the time, and we probably would have been in a position that other priorities being what they were, we would have had to forego an opportunity where we could leverage that $250,000 for a 20-to-1 return on investment almost for the trail system. So I think it's great that we're now in a position where when these opportunities come along, and this $6 million, to be clear, this is still taxpayer money. It is allocated through another level of government, but if we don't pursue these opportunities, another community will seize them and they'll benefit from it. So I think it's great for staff to have come across this, and I fully intend to support it. And I think $6 million worth of infrastructure work for $250,000 to municipal taxpayers is a steal of a deal if we can get it, and look forward to it and hope it goes through.
Thank you. Further comments? I honestly think this is a really significant opportunity, and I appreciate Chelsea identifying and bringing it forward to us. Living up in that area, seeing the number of people walking, running on the north side of town on 8th Street, on Imperial Access, pushing other kids and trying to get out, and to have this opportunity at having a real safe, healthy activity for folks to be able to use for that infrastructure, I think is just really amazing opportunity. And I agree with Councillor Earl in terms of how important it is for us to find a way to develop this. So I'm ecstatic with it. So appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully it moves forward. With that, I'll call the question. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Earl.
Sorry, just for my own curiosity, because you mentioned we had other pending grants for this same project. What happens to that are we Are we at the point where we have to withdraw from those if we apply for? Are we what kind of position are we putting ourselves in, and is it going to create an administrative problem for anyone?
Through your worship. So the active transportation grant we applied for back in April of this year was just for a small portion. It was about 20% of this overall project. We should receive confirmation of that funding in September of this year. If we do receive that funding, it'll grant stack onto this. We will not receive confirmation of this UBCM Strategic Priorities Grant funding until probably January of 2023. So there's some time. But we have done a lot of legwork in order to apply for this grant, a lot of partnerships, Trans-Canada Trail, ALR, the landowners, et cetera. So we're hoping that if we do receive the active transportation grant, we can get even more legwork on actually getting the land right of ways, et cetera, and then hopefully get this one too, and then be into construction for 2023.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. So any further comments? Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Item 8 is reports. 8.1, we have report number 22068 from the corporate officer regarding our 2021 annual report. Councillor Parslow.
I move that report number 22-068 from the corporate officer, read the 2021 annual report be received. Further, that the Dawson Creek annual report for 2021 be approved as presented.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Earl. Discussion. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, well, congratulations, Brenda and crew, for doing this. Reading it, it just begs one question to the mayor. In the last paragraph on page 3, I think it is, you state, and I'm just curious about some information. It says 2022 will see the construction of the new Dawson Creek and District Hospital, right? Can you update what's actually going to happen this 2022?
Surely, the capital planning is underway. The proponent is working with the province. It's expected that they will be announcing and beginning construction either late this year or early next year. And so, to me, the actual physical construction may not begin in 2022, but all of that active civil work, et cetera, is deep underway. And so we're optimistic that we'll see construction this winter or for sure next spring.
Good. Thank you.
It's just such an important project
yeah.
to me in terms of our community, and I think probably without a doubt, I feel one of the most significant we've seen in terms of having that new acute care announcement by the province that they're going to proceed with it. And so I think it's just an important message within our annual report because it does get that attention from investors, from people looking to move to the city about how important that new facility was. I felt it worthy of that identification.
Yeah.
Thank you. Further comments, further questions from council? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 8.2, we have report number 22069 from the Development Services Manager regarding a development variance permit for 10213 18th Street, which deals with the combined space or area of accessory structures. Just we're allowing a larger structure that's normally allowed for under our development permit, and this is asking for a variance by the property owner. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move the recommendation that report number 22-069 from the Development Services Manager regarding development variance permit 22-03, 10,000 213 18th Street combined area of accessory structures be received. Further, that development variance permit number 22-03 for 10213 18th Street be issued, varying the total combined floor area of accessory buildings and accessory structures from 72.5 square meters per parcel to 132 square meters.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilbur, discussion? And this administration were comfortable as a result of this was a larger lot than normal, so. Double lot. Any conversation, any discussion, comments from council? You ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 8.3, report number 22073 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding our tangible capital asset policy. Councillor Parslow.
I move that report number 22-073 from the CFO, the tangible capital asset policy be received. Further, that council rescind the current tangible capital asset policy and approve the new tangible capital asset policy as presented within this report pending the required 30-day review period.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. Probably to Terry, I'm assuming. Just a question, like I understand how capital expenditures and assets work. So, when you're replacing a chair, that's considered a repair, not a capital expenditure. So is this just is this legal technical reasons why we're changing all this? I noticed a lot of it was equipment in there, so we can understand how that works. But generally with equipment, it's just depreciated over years, right? And then as you replace it, that depreciation is taken out and it's moved back in.
Terry?
Your Worship, I'm unclear on the question.
Well, I just, when I was reading through this, it talked about chairs and, things that are getting replaced and it's getting moved around. So I guess I'm just looking for clarification exactly what this.
Yeah, so the main reason for the new policy is lowering the thresholds, changing some definitions. So yeah, again, there's a fine line between what should be capital and what's repair and maintenance. And so
Yeah.
when we come to chairs, unless we buy a large amount of chairs, like if we replace a whole bunch of chairs, like in a theater, that would be capitalized. But like office chairs and such, those would just be expensed unless they meet a group threshold.
But isn't it capital expenses only when you're adding something new that you didn't have before? So if, for example, chairs, if we were to replace every chair in City Hall and there's 200 chairs here, that's not a capital expenditure because it's a repair, because you're repairing ones that have already been capitaled, right?
No,
Like, is
that would probably be considered capital, just because the chairs that you currently have would have went through their useful life, so now it's a new capital item.
And is this being put in place to just switch with the Peace River funding that comes through? Is this just to help with that a little bit?
One of the reasons, yeah, and I thought the thresholds were really high here.
Okay.
So one of my main reasons was I was looking at building improvements. That was $50,000. So if we redid a washroom at Ovintiv and it cost $49,000, we couldn't capitalize it because it didn't meet the threshold as per our policy. So
Oh, okay.
specific things, it just makes it easier to capitalize, and specific stuff like IT infrastructure should be capitalized. If we're paying $80,000 for a piece of software, we should definitely be capitalizing that. So those are my main reasons.
Okay. Yeah, just my understanding, with CRA and how it works is if we were to replace the flooring in here, that's a repair because we've already capital expensed the flooring. So to replace
Unless it's going to increase the useful life of the building. So if the floor, again, it's a fine line.
Yeah.
It is a really fine line between, because I've had quite a few questions since I've been here on, is this capital or is, I'm like, well, it's kind of repair and maintenance. So it is, unless it's increasing the useful life or adding efficiencies, or, if we changed all the lighting to LED, that would be capital because we're saving money in the long run.
And adding something new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to just check yours, Blair?
I believe they're working on Facebook, just not in here at this
Oh, okay.
time.
Do you want to
so
take a break? Do you want to get them fixed?
If we could take 5-minute recess, Your Worship.
Sure. Thank you. So we'll recess for 5 minutes so we can get that audio fixed. So we're on to item 8.4, report number 22075 from the General Manager of Community Services regarding funding allocation for the arena sport flooring. Councillor Wilbur.
I will move the recommendation that report number 22-075 from the General Manager of Community Services regarding funding allocation for the arena sport flooring be received. Further, that a budget amendment be approved, increasing capital revenue grants by $100,000 and increasing capital project GC 2118 expenditures by $100,000 for a total of $346,000.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion. Councillor Wilbur?
I know that a lot of work's gone into this, so I think it's a smart move and gives us great opportunity to use our space for multi-purposes. So, it's there, it's grant funding, so I think we would be foolish not to.
Thank you. Councillor Dober?
I just had one question, and I know we're down the road a little bit on this flooring, but what's the purpose? Like, I get what the purpose of it is for, but is it like something that's going to be put in at the end of the ice and used all summer, or is it something that's going to be in the winter if it's needed for a weekend here? It can be easily moved in, or is it more like permanent for the season?
Through your worship.
Karen?
So this flooring is going to be utilized between Ovintiv and the Kin Arena. So when the Kin Arena does not have ice, it would stay there, and then it would go over to Ovintiv so that they could use it in between there. So it does have a lot of benefit, so that we can bring in tournaments and that to Dawson Creek, especially because you know how high it is for our Dawson Creek Volleyball Club. Other than that, we would also have futsal as among other pickleball and that as well. So it will be highly utilized, and you can have up between 3 and 4, I believe, sports even going on at once. So
is this potentially something like where Parks and Rec could bring in pickleball for the winter at the event center, so that we can have a
absolutely, as long as, yes, of course, if there's an event happening, then no. But yes, then it would be taken and used there for sure.
And then, sorry, just one last question about it. What if this is used at Ovintiv for in the winter for something like pickleball? Like, is there a fee to that, or is it free to the city, part of our contract with Ovintiv?
So it would be rented through, I believe at that time, still through us. So we do there is funds coming to it to use it. Okay. It's not going to cost us anything. So, their maintenance would be the ones responsible for putting it in and maintaining it while it is there. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, well, I'm obviously in support of something like this, but I'm just interested to know what capacity that gives us. I think it's Grand Prairie, as an example, has a pretty major volleyball tournaments, right? Drawing teams from all over. So would this give us the capacity to hold a pretty major volleyball tournament? Just choosing that, it's a very popular sport here. What capacity would it give us?
So through your worship, so we would actually be able to supply at least, it would be 4 courts for volleyball there. So again, we already do utilize our gymnasiums when possible at the schools, but this would be a one area place to go. And I know for Grand Prairie for volleyball, since I'm very familiar with volleyball in my life, but that's 60 teams that attend those type of tournaments. So it would be a lot of people coming to our town.
And would 4 courts with the other school facilities?
Yes,
Yeah,
so
good.
depending on, so moving with the different age groups, having them all there, yes, you would utilize them all.
Just a supplementary question, because I like all that stuff. I mean, that's great. But I'm just wondering, again, in what Councillor Dober just raised, and Ovintiv, I have the impression, and correct me wrong, that if any time any group wishes to use Ovintiv, they have to pay, with the exception of the couple of events that the city, like the grad and so on. But so do we have free access for recreation like this?
So through your worship, so if it is a non-profit and it goes and rents through us, so we do bookings through us for Ovintiv for our items, then it isn't a cost to us. We would get the booking fees for it, same as when we do ice and as that as well. So, but if it is a big event where they're booking through Ovintiv, then that's when that goes through them.
So wouldn't a 60-team volleyball tournament be a big event?
I would, through your worship, I would just have to get some more information from
Yeah,
that from
I'm
Dustin.
not-
Just to clarify for sure.
I'm all in favor of this, but I'm just trying to understand the relationship of Ovintiv's contract with the city and enabling something like this. Yeah, I'd be interested in whatever you find out, but.
Yes, for
yeah.
sure.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, just following up on Charlie's point, if when the flooring is in the event center, it's going to be maintained and assembled by their staff, they're not going to want any kind of compensation for that?
Sorry, through your worship, yes, so they would have to, I would assume then if it's going to
So,
be for
a
them.
hard
then
cost,
yes,
yeah.
Yeah, so we are currently working on that with
Okay.
Ovintiv.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. I would think similar to what happens now, if I'll use soccer as an example, if they want to use the Kin Arena, whether it be for photos or an indoor event, there's user fees. So you accommodate for that in your planning. So if you want to hold a regional competition or event, you're going to incorporate those fees into your event overhead. So nothing is completely free. It has a cost. But if you're hosting a regional event with 60 teams, you're going to bring in some income to cover the cost for using those facilities. Having the floor allows us to actually allow our groups in the community to host regional events. So to me, I mean, fees are fees. We pay them now for soccer fields, for baseball diamonds. Our volleyball pays. We all pay a user fee to use facilities. To me, this is no different.
So yes.
Thank
so
you.
It will cost.
Councillor Dober?
Sorry, just one last question. Just, I know, I understand Councillor Wilbur's side, but, there's leases on all the city properties. The Ovintiv one is unique and different to the other ones. If they were to rent it out and use the flooring that the city or the taxpayers have paid for, and they're gonna, profit off that, should we not be having like a fee that we would charge them for the flooring?
Blair?
Use it for their event?
I think that is something we would work with them on, certainly,
okay.
on that. The facility, it is a city-owned facility. Let's never forget this. It's a city-owned facility that we have entered into a lease agreement for the operation of the Ovintiv Center particularly. This flooring, if it was to go in there and there was a large volleyball tournament we'll use, for example, there will be a cost to the volleyball tournament to have to pay for certain things. Now, if that revenue, as the lease exists today, is going to the Ovintiv Center, and they would like to use the flooring that the city of Dawson Creek purchases, certainly there would be a fee charged for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything further? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. 9 bylaws. Item 9 is 9.1. We have land acquisition bylaw at 1608 106th Avenue, bylaw 4531 for consideration of adoption. Move, Councillor Wilbur. Second, Councillor Dober. Discussion. Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 9.2 is Council Procedure Amendment Bylaw 4533 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Dober, second. Councillor Earl, thank you. All those in favor? Sorry? Oh, Councillor Parsel, go ahead.
So in section 2, text amendments 2.1, 520. I was kind of interested in some of the changes here because I am not aware that we've had any problems. For instance, when the presiding member is putting the matter to vote, a member must not cross or leave the room, make a noise or other disturbance, or interrupt the voting procedure under subsection B unless the interrupting member is raising a point of order. Is this because when I haven't been here, that there's been some problems?
Could be. Oh, there's been lots of problems. Brenda?
Through your worship, that section was not one of the changes. We just were replacing 5.20 in its entirety. So that wording's been in there for quite some time.
Okay, good. Good.
We've always allowed
Now-
some
now you know the
leniency.
rest of the story.
Thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 9.3 is the fees and charges amendment bylaw for airport hangar leases, bylaw 4534 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Dober, Councillor Wilbur, you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you.
Is this the last we'll hear about this topic?
What's that?
Is this the
Yes,
last
that'll be the last we hear of this.
Oh, I certainly hope so, yes.
9.4, we have report number 22070 from the Development Services Manager regarding our OCP amendment bylaw 4536, 2022 for the Woodlands Neighborhood Concept Plan. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I move the recommendation that report number 22-070 from the Development Services Manager, OCP Amendment 22-02 Bylaw number 4536, 2022 Woodlands Neighborhood Concept Plan be received. Further, that the Woodlands Neighborhood Concept Plan attached to this report be approved. Further, that OCP Amendment 22-02 Bylaw number 4536, 2022 be given first and second readings.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dober, discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 9.5, we have report number 22071 from the Development Services Manager regarding zoning amendment bylaw, zoning amendment 2202 Woodlands bylaw 4537. Councillor Earl, sorry.
Thank you, Worship. Once again, move the recommendation that report number 22-071 from the Development Services Manager regarding zoning amendment 22-02, Woodlands bylaw number 4537, 2022 be received. Further, that zoning amendment 22-02 bylaw number 4537, 2022 be given first and second reading.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Dober, thank you. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Item 10, Mayor's Business. I'll give an update on a couple of items that.
Excuse
have
me,
been-
Your Worship.
Sorry?
It is 10 o'clock. And we
Oh,
had a
okay, and
delegation.
our delegation is here. So we would, at this time then, I'd like to request we adjourn, our recess, our open meeting and move to closed, and I resolution to move to closed. And agenda item 2.1, 91 is information is prohibited to be presented in a document. Item 4.1 is our section 90 minutes. I have two additional in-camera items, 8.1 and 8.2, as per section 91J, the Freedom of Information, and 8.3, as per section 91C, dealing with labor relations. I have a motion to move to adjourn, move to closed. Councillor Wilbur, second. Councillor Dober, all in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. So we'll take a 3-minute break and allow Carl to close down, and we'll move to close. We were at item 10, Mayor's Business, so I want to give a quick update on a number of items. And first one, I attended the opening of the Spirit of the Peace powwow in Taylor a couple of weeks ago on Friday night, and it's the first time they've been able to get back to the powwow in about 2 or 3 years with COVID, and very well attended and really very, very cool event put on. And congratulations to organizers and Connie Gray Eyes as the lead of that group, and they did a great job. Northern Health, and I have no idea, I can't remember why I put this on the agenda.
Which one?
Northern Health. We attended the grad scavenger hunt and on Friday of the grad weekend, and I think they had 25 vehicles and well decorated, and the kids were obviously having a really, really fun night. And congratulations to the grads, congratulations to the organizers and parents and everybody for getting the kids through grad and a safe and fun time of their life. I met with the folks from Pacific Northern Gas. Were up a week ago and just talking about the supply and distribution of natural gas to our community and many others in the north. And I think the message that I really was received from them is, over the years we've lived on a world of very cheap gas, and it has been very cheap natural gas, but we've seen that price begin to climb. And so, like with everything else that we seem to be experiencing today, and commodity prices and costs of groceries and fuel and utilities, and I worry about natural gas and how that's going to impact our residents potentially and businesses. The new healthcare workers meet and greet and the physicians we had last Wednesday night. I can't remember what night it was, but thanks to Councillor Dober and Councillor Wilbur for joining in. Thank you to Councillor Wilbur and everyone for supporting this from our last meeting. We had, I think, probably 15 or 20 of the local docs and specialists, and good, nice turnout from the community. And it was very, very positive in terms of the response, and good to meet the physicians, the new ones and the ones that have been here for a period of time, and our new surgeons and the psychiatrists. And so it was just very, very positive. And I think it speaks a little bit to what people have been saying in terms of how important it is for us to develop that model of welcoming our community and demonstrating what our community has to offer to our healthcare workers. So thank you for the support of that. I thought it was very well done. Does anybody have any questions of those items? 10.2, I wanted to bring forward, and Councillor Parslow, we raised it at our, I can't remember if it was our last meeting or the meeting before, about the issue of the new hunting regulations in the region. And so this was the press release that was issued by a number of the Treaty 8 nations. Doig, I think Halfway, Prophet, and West Moberly is the four nations and the chiefs who provided some quotes to this news release. But it is really about the new hunting regulations that are bringing in a limited entry hunt for the moose into our region. And why I wanted to bring this forward, because it really speaks to what, certainly when I got the first notification from the province about the potential of bringing in a limited entry hunt for a moose in our region. And I raised this with the province. There needs to be some, in my opinion, preference given to local hunters from our region. This isn't a sport for the most part where people are going out for the sport. They go out to enjoy the outdoors, but they also go because it's a way of life. They go out. The people in northeastern British Columbia hunt to fill their freezer. It's a part of what they do every year to supply food for their family. Where you see the RVs come up from all over British Columbia and elsewhere because of the limited access to moose hunting and so many other areas of the province because of, I'm assuming, either declining a resource availability of moose in other regions, or there are no moose, and so the people are coming up for a week of fun with their buddies to go hunting, and that isn't the case for eastern British Columbia, in my opinion. And so what we said to the province was, look, you've got to give increased availability to those permits for residents in Northeast BC. And certainly that was my message to them. And I was heartened to see the release by the chiefs who reiterated that exact same message. This is about ensuring the moose are here for eternity and that they're available for people to be able to hunt for the future in the long term. But also the messages about this, Chief McCatahay, this right from the start, we presented options to the province for limiting impacts on local hunters. And Chief Hunter from Halfway, we want to work together to ensure greater wildlife abundance for all. And so to me, that was really an important message, and I wanted to share that as a part of our discussion to ensure that people understand that our neighbors, the chiefs of Treaty 8, were exactly the same message about ensuring some access to that and availability for our local neighbors. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
I'd like to add to that, and thanks for putting that on the agenda, because there's a lot of intense feelings about this, and the First Nations people are getting a unfair rap from this, from my perspective. So I think this should be certainly circulated as best as possible. But the sad part about this is that if you look to, and I'm not an authority on these things, I'm engaged, but I'm not, I've never applied for hunting permits anywhere else other than BC. But I'm told that we have a very backward approach to the issuing of hunting permits. For instance, in Alberta, if you are successful, your odds of getting another are decreased. They've got it all handled by computer, and you can, if you apply it in the second year, you didn't get it in the first year, your odds increase. And I don't see why with technology you couldn't have a regionalized approach as per the chief's sentiments here and what Dale just talked about. And so I don't know if MLA can start pushing this forward a little bit. Maybe when I'm in his office, I'm rarely in his office, but I can make a point of going into his office and seeing if he can do a little more. He did speak to the Sportsman's Club on this topic. It was a well-attended meeting, and maybe we just need to keep pushing that we modernize our draw system in the province.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not a hunter. I don't go out and annually hunt, harvest animals. But I was really, to me, the message here was about, we saw some really nasty negative comments towards the Indigenous Treaty 8 First Nations folks, and this, I hopefully will be something that, in the press release they issued, I want to read a specific part there. We, our nations, along with for other Treaty 8 First Nations, engaged with the province to address the impacts by closing open seasons in a manner that would balance non-Indigenous hunting in the territory with protections of the treaty rights to hunt. Our preference was to shield local hunters from the effects of closure by providing priority allocation of tags, and we sought ways to permit guide outfitters to be left whole. We're disappointed the province rejected our recommendations and unilaterally adopted new regulations that retain a small concentration of open season. And to me, the message really is about this. Listen, we're all in this together. We're all in the region together. We need to ensure that the clarity of communication is there for people to understand that the messages that we're providing, I think, from both the Indigenous and non-Indigenous was consistent in this manner. And so anyway, I appreciated the release that was done, and I thought it appropriate that we put it on the agenda. Thank you. Any comments, questions from anyone? Thank you. Blair, so we got Chief Administrative Officer operational updates?
There was not a lot. I did receive a call this morning with regard, we had the splash park open, I believe Friday was the first day. Unfortunately, there was some issues on the weekend where it ended up being closed early for cleaning. I put a call in. We will meet with the South Peace Mile Zero Park Society. I'm hopeful that our water park can run for one day without having to clean it and shut it down. Our summers are limited, so I've put that call in. We will look into it. Apparently, there was some comments on social media of which I'm not on, but we're aware of it, and we will get that handled. I think what has happened with Northern Health's decision to close down Rotary Lake, we now have far greater use of our splash park, but we will be working on that, and I really want to update yourselves in case you are contacted early this week. It has come to our attention, and we are working on it. So.
Thank you, Blair. Any questions for council? Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Parslow?
No.
Thank you, Blair.
That's everything, Your Worship.
Thank you. Next, we'll go on to diary. Nothing new. Nothing on consent calendar today. Strategic priorities, no new. Media. So today in the Committee of the Whole was a change a little bit from our traditional and normal routine of Committee of the Whole, where we would have a lineup of department heads come in and give a report on their area, and it's a busy day for everybody and to line them all up. And so we had sent a note out to council that we've got the reports, and that if there was anything that was identified by you in the reports that you wanted to have a question of the department head, we would be happy to bring them in, but to have them all lined up to do that sometimes seemed like a difficult process for them. So I want to throw it out to council in terms of your views and thoughts on this structure, and would you prefer to have the department heads attend as normal and provide that report to you? Or is having the written report available, and then if you have any questions, we can call them in to be available for us? So I appreciate your feedback. Councillor Parslow?
Well, I prefer the latter, get the reports. If there's something we want, some presentation or some questions, we can advise staff, okay? But I would like, I wonder if there's, so we get the reports, fine, but I'm just wondering if this sort of time slot couldn't also be used for some more in-depth discussion around some planning issues or things that we need to have a chat about in an unstructured way, but such as just to illustrate what I'm talking about, what can we do about the supply or the empowering our residents who have been qualified in other jurisdictions in the healthcare industry to get qualified, right? Is there something we can do to assist them? That would be just a discussion topic, no reports from staff, but it may spawn some ideas that we would then put forward in a future meeting, right? It's important topics to the community that there's no reports on. We just need to talk about them. They are issues that we are struggling with. Just a suggestion.
Oh, good. No, I like it. I think obviously if we identified 3 or 4 in every quarter, we said, look, we've got 2 or 3 things that are really significant that we would like to have that opportunity at council as a whole to have that discussion. With each committee of the whole meeting, if we only have 1 or 2 things and we've got that time, then we allocate an hour or 2 hours of time for that discussion and prioritize what topics that would be of interest to council to be able to have that flow on.
Yeah.
Any other feedback for council in terms of this process? Councillor Wilbur?
I'm fine with this. I know everybody's time is valuable and they're busy, but I'm wondering, do we need to set a timeline then to have our questions in so that they know that they need to be available or that we've asked questions?
We really said that if we could have it by lunchtime on Friday, you get the agendas out Wednesday. You can have a look at the reports of the committee of the whole and say, look, I want to have the RCMP staff sergeant in or the fire chief or somebody in. We can then, at least that way, we notify them on Friday afternoon that they're going to be needed to be here by Monday morning. Blair?
Yes, that would be our wish. If a counselor reads through the agenda, looks at the reports under committee of the whole, determines they have questions, if they could contact us by noon on Friday to say, hey, look, I am going to have questions of our staff sergeant, for example, then we would let Damon know that, yes, be prepared to be here on Monday. But if there are no questions, we leave the department heads who wrote the reports free to go about their day and would indicate that people have read the reports and have no questions.
And thank you for that. And to that point, I want to put it out there then also to the public that if you have questions for council that's on the report, we need to know before Friday so we can bring those forward.
Yeah, through yourselves, for sure. Thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. I think that makes complete sense to me to do it this way because it's, I feel like those department heads, don't have a lot of time and their time could be used a lot wiser than sitting here waiting for us to get to the, to that part of the agenda. And then also too, if there was a question, is that not something we could just ask staff? Like if, is that something like if, I don't know, I've had questions and I can just call Blair and ask him and he will usually answer or get me the answer.
Sure.
We are happy to do it that way unless it is, I would like this, we're sticking with the staff sergeant today, but any of the people, the authors of the committee of the whole reports, if there's just a simple question, we can get you that answer. It will be based on your request. As a mayor and council, look, there's enough in this report that I think we need the person there to go through a number of questions, but as we've done in the past with each of you, I get calls on a regular basis. I encourage you to continue with that. And if we can't summarize the answer for you, we would bring the individual in.
Thank you.
He's mentioned it to me. He gets way more than he needs from you guys, but Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I mean, I'm fine with this. I know certainly it's always nice to hear from our department managers and hear their enthusiasm on the various initiatives they've got going on in the city. But there's also a realization that their time is valuable. They're not working for free, and if they're spending half a day waiting for us to call upon them and diverting their focus and attention towards that, what might they be doing more productively? So, I'm fine with this, and I tend to be able to get most of the agendas read before Friday. And on those rare occasions where I do, I mean, if we miss the question at a committee of the whole, I can always come in and ask Blair. He's pretty easy to contact, and if he doesn't know the answer, he's fairly quick finding someone who does. I'm fine with this.
Thank you.
Your Worship, just one point I will before possible social media does heat up on this. During the day when our members were coming to committee of the whole, they were working up to the time they came in. They weren't just sitting doing nothing for that half a day. I thought I would beat people to the keyboard just to be able to say that. So, thank you.
If we could just have it as a standing item, though, that if we could have Michelle be available to attend at each and every committee of the whole meeting, just to ensure that we continue that development of reports from our Councillor Earl.
And just one quick, because we do have a few unique departments, divisions, whatever you want to call them, the airport, the Ovintiv Event Center, where I do still would like to periodically, whether on a quarterly basis, be able to have some FaceTime with those. I don't want to, and I don't know if it maybe doesn't need to be under the committee of the whole, and it can be a delegation or what have you, if that would make more sense for the sake of consistency. But I do think it's important that we're, contractors that are working with the city are know who we are, and we get a chance to speak with them face to face.
Excellent question, Councillor. We have had very preliminary discussions on that to the exact fact. The Ovintiv Center, for example, the airport, because we do run those through contracts, would they come quarterly to address? I think that would be worthwhile, certainly, on that.
Good idea. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Anything further? Staff, administration, council? So no need to move to closed. We've dealt with that. So a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Wilbur, second. Councillor Earl. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry. All those in favor and opposed? All those in favor, opposed, and it's carried. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Monday. Have a great rest of the week. See you in July.